The WNBA believed it could maintain its kept under wraps. They believed Sophie Cunningham might be able to keep quiet, give her a wrist slap, and proceed as if nothing had occurred. However, what they didn't anticipate Sophie's refusal to follow their guidelines. And now the league is dealing with a flurry of criticism. It has no control. It's not just another instance where a player has run her mouth. If you're looking for the actual tale, subscribe to avoid the filtered version. Additionally, if you plan to stay for the next meltdown, you'd better sign up. Hi there, this is Sophie Cunningham. The presence of veterans and growing cultural voice make use of her position to shine a emphasis on the single item the league does not wish to discuss. It's obsessed with managing the story. Using her podcast Show Me, Sophie didn't merely provide criticism, officiating. She criticized the system itself. She drew aside the drapes and informed fans of the situation in detail, behind the scenes. Additionally, for that, the WNBA let the hammer fall. Penalties, warnings, and it is now said that she has been released from its Indiana fever. Let's take a moment to second because consider how insane. Here it is. The role of Sophie Cunningham, player who made a name for herself, not with gaudy statistics, but with character, perseverance, and her refusal to fake it, has abruptly emerged as the most dangerous person in the league. Not due to her dominance on the court, however, because she's stating the truth. It hurts, to be honest. On her, Sophie explained everything in her podcast. The penalties for voicing disapproval of officials that arrive not only following games, but even following podcasts or casual comments. The selective enforcement in which certain stars get away with making remarks, but others have been hit with fines. The manner in which the league subtly encourages players to pull the business line, which discourages any honesty. Things could give the brand a sloppy appearance. Additionally, when Sophie ended that quiet, when she explained to the followers just how it feels oppressive to be penalized for just being honest, the WNBA's a reform was the answer. It wasn't contemplation. It was revenge. That's the word fire enters the picture. Due to be honest, when you're separated from a team immediately following the leagues, don't let her handle the soiled laundry. Conspiracist to discover what's taking place. Sophie wasn't your average casualty on the roster. She was transformed into one. For instance, an alert to the remainder of the league. Don't interrupt others or you'll be the next. However, this is where the WNBA made an enormous error. They undervalued the fans since they're not purchasing the spin for PR. The team won't be swallowed. Fit justifications or just basketball stories. They observe precisely what's occurring and they're incensed. Social. The media is supporting Sophie and demanding for. She is the truth teller for the league. Supporters are saturating her podcast with encouragement, increasing her platform's reach well beyond what it would have been had the league simply tried to silence her while ignoring her. Unintentionally, the WNBA has made her voice louder than before. That's poetry, isn't it? Instead of burying her, the lead, she became a martyr because of them. Now, let's examine Sophie's real words, since that is the central idea of this entire storm. She wasn't merely griping about calls that were unsuccessful for her. She was highlighting issues with the system. The irregularities in the officiating where some players, typically the Golden Kids, receive first-class treatment while others are blown into thin air. The excessive penalties in cases where criticism. One participant receives a slap on the wrist, but receives payment from another. Draining penalty. The perception that the league is mainly focused on dominating picture rather than resolving issues. Additionally, you are aware. What? She is correct.
It is seen by fans.
Players discuss it in whispers. Members of the media
Dance around it.
Sophie recently experienced the courage to say it directly. Additionally, in saying it, she resonated not only with fans of the Fever, not just casual WNBA observer, but with anyone who has ever been annoyed by a league that prioritizes PR above the actual world. Consequently, this basketball is not the only topic of controversy. Free speech is at issue here. This relates to genuineness. This concerns whether players are free to be who they are or whether polishing them is necessary. Sanitized league brand ambassadors that has yet to learn how to accept genuineness. This is where the irony lies. Show me something, Sophie's podcast was this type of genuine player-driven. What the league ought to have been. Festive. It was uncooked. It was authentic.
It
provided viewers with an inside glimpse at in a manner that the WNBA's corporate channels were never able to. It attracted eyes, generated interest, and produced the precise type of buzz that the WNBA asserts its desire. However, rather than using that power, they attempted to break it up.
Why?
Since Sophie didn't be kind. She failed to safeguard the shield. She was honest, and that's what frightens them. Now consider this sends other players a message.
If
Sophie Cunningham may be punished for annihilation and sliced off simply for existing, what does that mean for everyone honestly? Or else, it instills terror in the culture. A society in which athletes bite their tongues, gulp their annoyances, and, instead of talking, use parrot-safe lines. Their thoughts. Additionally, when that occurs, the lead loses more than just control. Genuineness.
It loses the precise thing.
It makes watching sports worthwhile. Actual individuals with genuine emotion. Supporters don't desire robots. They prefer not to be scripted.
Sound bites.
Fire is what they desire. They desire sincerity. Sophie Cunningham is everything they desire, uttering the silent section aloud.
And now,
that she is now the WNBA's poster child for quiet voices they have given them. Supporters a call to action. Hashtag set Sophie free. Just think of how strong that may get. Every fine she receives makes her happy. Every effort to keep her quiet becomes one another instance of going viral. Each and every player who agrees with her in private but is too scared to talk. They're observing. They're standing by. Additionally, one by one, the league's effort to exert control could break apart. But it gets even worse from here. More captivating. Sophie doesn't support.
Down.
She isn't giving in to pressure. She is utilizing her podcast to double down. To boost her voice, she rode the wave of support from fans and assuming the role of the truth teller, regardless of the league, whether they like it or not. Additionally, she's growing stronger than she had ever been on the Fever as a role player. Because the facts about Sophie Cunningham, let's face it, weren't going to establish her as a household name. But the rebellious Sophie Cunningham. Sophie Cunningham, the informant. Sophie Cunningham, the individual who declined to allow the WNBA to silence her. That's a narrative. It's a movement. That's something has resonance that extends well beyond the box score. The league is aware of this. They're panicking because of this. For this reason, she is being slammed with fines.
Why?
They are communicating that dissent will not be accepted. However, the issue is, they are no longer in charge of the
story.
Sophie has admirers. Sophie has the microphone. Sophie possesses the genuineness that the league is unable to produce. What comes next, then? That is the crucial question.
Does
the WNBA double down, keep looking for, and put her on a blacklist hoping the storm finally goes extinct? Or are they aware that in an attempt to quiet Sophie, they have made a monster that they are unable to
contain?
Do they at last admit the problems she's bringing up, embrace the player, genuineness, and attempt to repair the crack? Was she exposed? Considering that if they don't, this won't be limited to Sophie Cunningham's battle. This might develop into a league-wide rebellion. More players may begin voicing one's opinion. More fans could begin to requesting openness. Additionally, the WNBA, a league with a strong desire to expand its audience and build its brand, could feel itself giving way under the strain of its own fixation with dominance.
And
the poetic irony here should not be overlooked. Show Me is the name of Sophie's podcast. Something she simply displayed the WNBA didn't want us in the world to observe. Additionally, the league's effort to punishing her has only inspired others to continue to watch and listen. Thus is the WNBA's villain, Sophie Cunningham, desires her to be, or the admirers of heroes have been anticipating? That is debatable. However, one thing is evident. This battle isn't disappearing. The noise is only growing louder. What are your thoughts? Do leagues need to have the authority to silence athletes in the name of safeguarding their reputation? Or do gamers, such as Sophie, have an obligation to tell the truth at all costs? And do the WNBA understand they made a public relations campaign a nightmare? Or are they going to continue digging their own tomb? In any case, one thing is for sure. Sophie Cunningham simply altered the game. We will also be present for each round, each discovery, and each explosion in the process. Okay, let's continue since the Sophie. There is more to the Cunningham saga than simply petty conflict over discoveries. No, this has turned into something considerably larger. What we are, WNBA, is attempting to watch unfold in order to maintain authority in the oldest, ugliest manner imaginable. Punish the voice that is unwilling to comply. And Sophie is the voice they were unable to gentle. The thing is this: the league has always taken care of its appearance. The brand is expanding and continues to battle for in the congested world of athletics. Thus, they protect their story as if it were gold. Cracks are not what they want. Within the paint, players are not what they want. Uttering statements that could imply the league isn't as flawless or well-developed as the advertisements portray it as such. However, what occurs when a player declines to participate? The section? As she embraces the raw, Sophie is the honest and messy one. The WNBA and Cunningham don't know how to handle her. Since Sophie didn't avoid problems at all costs, she left directly at them. What did she say aloud? In changing rooms, players whisper. The officiating is not always constant. The star favoritism is shown to players and penalties are absurd. As she saw it, she termed it, and fans adored it. At last someone is speaking the truth, he remarked. Someone is telling us the truth. The WNBA could have accepted that. Might have listened to her podcast. Something to me flipped her into the resident firebrand of the league. Rather than, they may have snubbed her and said, hey, this contributes to our leagues. Thrilling. Our players don't hold back. Just think of the PR victory if they had allowed. Instead, they turned and let Sophie be Sophie, her into an adversary. Additionally, when you shoot you don't silence the truth teller, you raise her voice. Let's discuss the supporters for a moment, as this is where the league's largest misunderstanding. Authenticity is adored by fans. They are tired of cookies and want for it. Cutter sayings like, as we just must put up more effort or give both teams credit. They desire emotion and unadulterated sincerity. For this reason, players such as Sophie connect. It's not because she's getting older, a knight, but because she's stating what the others are too afraid to speak. So, as the WNBA repeatedly hits her with, fans are thinking, oh, she went fines too far. They're wondering why is the league afraid of what she said? Each and every. She appears braver when she is fine. Each and every. The league appears weaker when it is punished. And dismissing her, which turns her into a martyr. At this point, it begins to feel like a
film.
Sophie seated before Mike, addressing her podcast, not deterred by fines, grinning since she is familiar with the league, cannot prevent others from hearing. Each and every. Listening to her as a fan isn't only amused. They feel more confident. They send out a tweet. They begin yelling. The league. They begin to inquire. Awkward inquiries. Why do some? While some gamers get alright, others don't.
Why?
Is the league not taking care of the problems? What does Sophie discuss? For what reason are they penalizing openness rather than rewarding it? And after those inquiries begin to spread, the WNBA becomes uncontrollable due to the fact that Sophie has revealed that leagues are reluctant to acknowledge participants aren't free. They work for a living. Additionally, such workers are supposed to say the proper actions regardless of their beliefs, them or not. That's the unspoken agreement. Play hard. Don't say anything. Safeguard the brand. However, Sophie tore that split in half while live on television. Additionally, she's paying a price for that. But here's the turn. There are more besides her. Other players are observing. They might not saying it aloud, but you'd best trust. When Sophie calls, they are nodding in agreement. Out of officiating irregularities. They also sensed it. Someone has whistled at them for infractions that they did not commit. They've observed calls for great players being ignored. When under pressure, they chewed their tongues. Conferences since they are aware of what a fines. Sophie simply mustered the courage to make a note of it. Currently, the league's crackdown has built something it can't reverse. Anger and terror. Fear due to players are now aware of their voice. They will be crushed. Resentment due to they know in their hearts that Sophie was correct. That combination is risky. It doesn't. It builds with simply quiet players. Pressure. And when that pressure eventually blows, there will be a full-scale league. It has revolt on its hands. Let's discuss that as well. About money, as that's where the story is the most impactful. Sophie is not a maximum contract superstar. Each and every fine hurts. Every punishment eats away at her livelihood, yet she doesn't stop talking. Yes, that is the reason why her admirers call her the truth teller, as she's taking a chance. Anything tangible to help him be honest. She's giving up comfort in order to retreat the curtain, and that's strong. The league is taking a chance in the meantime. Something to credibility.
By
Fans are being told that Sophie is being punished. The truth doesn't matter to us. You'll obtain the narrative we desire for you.
And
by 2025, that is not accepted by fans. They possess podcasting, social media, and independent voices in the media. They are not in need of the news releases from the league. They desire the unadulterated reality, and Sophie is delivering it to them. The irony, her podcasts have never been more popular. When the WNBA attempted to bury her, they constructed her platform. Every little turn into a show. Every penalty turns into the content. Fans pay attention not only to listen to Sophie's opinions, but to encourage her in the league's sanctions. The WNBA unintentionally produced its own largest critic and provided her with every piece of ammunition she requires. Let's now envision where this
moves.
There are two choices for the league. They can continue to put in extra effort, locate Sophie, blackballing her in the hopes that she disappears into irrelevant, but it simply makes her more determined.
Fire.
Or they may acknowledge that they handled
this.
They are able to accept player voices, release their hold on a story, and understand that fans are looking for authenticity.
Yearn.
However, does the WNBA possess the To be so humble? Or will pride get in the way? Them further into this mess? If the past reveals anything leagues hardly ever acknowledge culpability until it's too late, which is the true tragedy in this case. Cunningham, Sophie, might have been useful. She might have been the unadulterated star of a league. The fans of players enjoy hearing, especially if they don't always concur. Rather, she's a rebellious face, and the WNBA made it. In that manner, what is Sophie's next destination? In this place? Perhaps she is taken up by another group. Perhaps she doesn't. However, her voice is definitely not going to any place. It is, if anything, louder than never. Not all of her is Sophie Cunningham, a basketball player. Her name is Sophie Cunningham, whistleblower, truth teller, martyr. Additionally, that role lasts longer, greater than any season. Fans will remember this. Gamers will remember this. Additionally, the league can't act like that didn't take place. Okay, let's crank this matter because the Sophie Cunningham drama has evolved beyond a podcast or some fines. No, this is approximately one league was caught red-handed, attempting to mute the only voice that won't bend. Additionally, in doing so, they have ignited something that they are unable to command. Sophie is no longer that. Mike and the scrappy fever player went to the focal point of insurrection. Moreover, the WNBA is making mistakes at every turn. Consider regarding how uncommon this is. Typically, when the player who talks too much is punished, they express regret, perhaps soften their tone, and life goes on. However, Sophie doubled down. Each and every penalty, caution, and the league's warning didn't stop her. It gave her energy. She took their penalty and turned it into information, into narrative, into evidence that she was striking a chord. Oh, and the fans. It was well received by the fans. Show me her podcast. Already, something was getting momentum. It's a full-on megaphone now, though. It feels like a middle finger in every episode
To the office of the league.
Additionally, each time the WNBA attempts to silence her and her fans
Grows.
they have transformed her into. The league never desired this. A cult figure. And that's the actual risk. In this place, no superstar is Sophie Cunningham. On the statistical record, she isn't the spokesperson for, such as Caitlin Clark or the league. Wilson is a poster girl for dominating. However, because she's prepared to say what no one else will. Otherwise, she's turned into something even larger. The voice of genuineness.
That
Voice cannot be quantified in terms of points or
plenty.
loyalty is used to measure it. Admirers are accompanying her on her ride, not because of lowering $30 a night, but since she's speaking the truth when others are too afraid. Let's now discuss the hypocrisy, since that's the truth. Boiling fans. The WNBA like parades around the notion that they give their own players who rejoice